It is May 6th. It is, 6 de Mayo. This is Atlanta United FC Weekly, a Home Before Dark podcast. I am Tim Herb, and as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Mr. Kevin Bradley, the bearded one across from me. Are you like victoriously taunting people? It's done.
It's done.
It's done. The bottle of Sazerac has been completed.
Spoiler alert. Spin the bottle always lands on Tim.
Oh, the rear end of it does. Dan James is joining us live from his bunker.
I am here.
Dan, did you go to protectmyfamily.com and get all of your prepping needs?
I can't talk about that, Tim.
How much dog food in a bucket do you have down there for you and your wife and kids to eat? You and your 12 sons.
It's cat food, and it's it's a lot.
It's good if you're on
you
keto.
have no idea.
If you're in ketosis, that cat food is pretty much just fat.
Yeah.
It's so rich
and it's
fat.
really good because it's water absorbent too. So whenever they inevitably make a mess on the floor, you just sprinkle a little cat food on there. You're good to go. Just soaks it right up.
I like the halfway point between Meow Mix and wet food tender vittles. You ever had that?
Oh, it's like that Crave cereal. It's got the
Exactly. Thank you guys for tuning in to The Trap. If you guys are not subscribed, make sure you guys hit the subscription button, subscribe, and then hit the notification bell icon so you guys know whenever we go live, especially when we do 2 shows on a Monday night like we have tonight. So many of you have come and migrated over to the live chat into The Trap, as it were, tonight. If you guys are listening to us on iTunes, make sure you leave us a rating and or a review. We will read it. A vote and or a review, and we will read it live on the show.
We really need it this week because we got no responses from Orlando shows. So there will not be an offside trap. Well, there will be. But since we're already a top 3 Orlando City podcast, we figured what better way than to do an offside trap where we just talk to ourselves. And here, I'll give you a little sample. So what are you thinking this week about the matchup against Atlanta United? Oh, really? You don't say. And what about Orlando's chances for playoffs?
It's like a surprised high pitch.
It's gonna be really good. It's gonna be really good. So keep those votes and reviews coming in so that we can stay at the top of the charts in Orlando City's favor. And Pirlo may be a top contributor for that show, actually.
Yeah, that or Chew Your Paw Off 2019. Who's got hot spots? We got to make tonight's show special. Brittany S is missing the end of The Punisher to watch us.
Oh no!
Yeah,
but she's caught up on Game of Thrones. That's all that matters, right?
Is she?
I don't know.
I
know she said she was blocking people, muting people on Twitter because they kept ruining it for her.
Thank you guys for joining us as always. It is a wonderful day, unless it's not a wonderful day where you don't think that wins are good.
Don't get too excited.
Don't get too excited, guys.
Don't get too excited.
We've won 3 out of 4 games, but slow your roll. We're still the worst team in the league.
Yeah,
easy,
exactly.
Right, Dan? Did we get that right?
Absolutely. I would say so. What are we like? 10th or something?
Yep.
I don't even know.
Least.
I can't even look at the table without just being assaulted.
Yeah. It's tough days, guys. It's a really sad state. Maybe with enough wins we can start to celebrate. But
yeah, I don't know.
I'm just wondering when.
You know what's funny, Dan? Kevin told me earlier something that they read off, or some sort of stat that they read off on the show or on the broadcast last night, saying through 5 games that we had the worst record of any team coming off of an MLS Cup final. So, I'm doing digging. I actually started doing that digging earlier this morning.
Tim put on his fake news hat is what he did. Because you can't trust a fucking thing anybody says.
Yeah,
he said, I don't buy that. I need stats and trends. I need John F.
Beasy. So you guys in The Trap, where do you think we rank through 8 matches? We're going to call this the MLS Championship or MLS Champions hangover statistic. Through 8 games, where do you think we stand historically with teams coming off of a championship game? And I know I already shared the database or spreadsheet with you guys, but I thought it was pretty telling. Even if you go back to 5 games, I think it was something like we have like we're in the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
Like through 5 games, even with as bad of a start as we had, we're not at the bottom. I think there are at least 3 or 4 teams that had worse records in their second or their what do you call it? Subsequent campaign, whatever. Their repeat campaign. And through 8 games so far this year, we have 11 points, obviously. And
Tim went back through 20 years of data for this.
So MLS Champions, we're right in the middle of the pack. Actually, we are in the top half of the table. We are in the top half of the table whenever it comes to points through 8 games for a championship team going into their repeat season. And you look at teams that are below that had a worse record than us through 8 games, points wise. 2005 DC they finished 3rd, and then Houston Dynamo in 2008 they finished 2nd. You had Columbus Crew in 2009 finished 1st. You had Houston Dynamo in 07 finished 3rd. You had DC United in 97 finished 1st. To take those stats as any sort of barometer, especially the first 5-6 games of the season, to look at that and think that we're not going to do anything. I mean, even recent history with Seattle is enough to say that's bullshit, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it could be bullshit.
Above us in recent history is the 2015 Los Angeles Galaxy, and in everyone else, like Toronto FC, the Seattle, like you're saying, in recent history, Portland Timbers, they're all below. So there's a good difference there above and below with older teams and recent teams, because MLS has been the most evolved league, I feel like, over the past 10 years or so.
Yeah, it's just shocking to me to hear that and to talk like people. We have the worst record after 5 games, after 8 games, whatever it is of any team coming off of a championship. I think my fake news hat did kind of just started like pinging and zanging, and I had to.
So then I just started finding all these fake Atlanta United articles, just putting a Facebook link on them and sending them to Tim. What about this? What about this one? No. Well,
how many games in hand do we have right now? We have 3.
3.
We have 3 games in hand on the top 3 of the division, or the top 3 of the conference.
All right. So I think it's pretty well defined that we're not the worst team coming off of a MLS championship win 5 or 8 games into the season. Also, we don't have a crystal ball that says that we're going to end up all of a sudden ending up in 2nd or 3rd place either. However, one thing we can talk about is what's been going around lately. We heard it last week after the Colorado match of, well, don't get too excited. It's a bad Colorado team. We didn't beat them by as much as we should have, as much as other teams have beaten them by. And I've seen some posts kind of along the same lines after a win against SKC this week, where it's a win by multiple goals, which is what everyone was clamoring for against Colorado. Mm-hmm. But even then, it's still not enough because SKC's in really bad run of play because they don't have a lot of their starters or a lot of their lineup to be able to put out there. While all very valid points, we don't even have the conversation that we're having right now if Atlanta loses that game. So what I pose to you guys is, both in the trap and Dan and Tim, what do you take away from that win? Obviously, I think we all can agree we celebrate it. It's a win. It's a step in the right direction. But how much stock do you put into that win going forward, especially against a Toronto team that seems to be a big challenge this Wednesday?
I'm going to throw this over to Dan because I'm still seething mad that we only won that game 3-0 in Kansas City.
Well, I guess there's 2 lenses you can look at it. You can look at it in the game that we actually played, and then you can look at it comparing to Toronto. I think they have some injuries, but there were still a bunch of their starting and first choice players that Kansas City played. You had Fernando Gutierrez, you had Zusi who was playing, you had Shallowy who was playing. I mean, you had Tim Melia who was playing, who stood on his head last time we played him. This
Christian
time,
Namath has scored 5 goals this year, I think.
Exactly. I mean, there were.
They didn't just throw out. Swope Park Rangers didn't play against Atlanta last night. That's not what happened.
And it's like we've said before, you've got to have depth in this league. I mean, Atlanta United, we have come up with against this time and time again. So you can only play the team out in front of you. Unfortunately, Kansas City were not going to give us the option to reschedule the game. So when they're all healthy in their own freaking time, that we can play them. I mean, nobody else has given us the benefit of the doubt to reschedule our games until all our guys are healthy, so we can play our top team. You can only play who's out there. So I thought this was a fantastic win. I think that winning breeds winning, regardless of how it's achieved. And I think if you want to be a downer on this, then it's just have some fun every now and then. Not everything has to be misery, you know.
Tata would have won the game 6-0, Dan.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's true. I mean, recency bias is a thing. I've said this 100,000 times to about 1,000 different people. You know, all these complaints that we've had with FDB, we had the exact same complaints from game here to game there with Tata. So
one of the best examples I saw of that was Joe Johnstone Joe Patrick tweeted something out after the whole bunkering quote from Frank DeBoer, and he found 5 interviews that Tata had against bunkering teams that were almost line for line what Frank DeBoer says when he's under fire for it, that no one seems to remember from Tata Martino.
Right. I think.
Go ahead.
Joe Johnstone in the trap, how will FDB rank against Tata? Well, as we covered this in the previous podcast, you can't compare energy drink football with protein shake football. It's just apples and oranges.
Yeah. Sometimes Slim Fast tastes good, man. You just gotta take it down.
No, Tim, look, don't do this, man. You already get in on this Huddle House thing, which I heard through Twitter, and now you're saying Slim Fast tastes great. It doesn't. It just doesn't.
Like it tastes like asshole.
Hey, can we agree that it tastes better than Ensure?
No,
I have
because
no
I'm
idea.
not 95 and I don't know what that tastes like.
Well, I do. I have the body. I have the internal body and the external body. I have the exoskeleton of a 90-year-old man.
Oh my God.
So
Tim, before we get to your response, Kevin Gorham answered pretty directly. He puts a ton of stock into this game. He saw players all over the field. This is what we're supposed to look like. Joseph as a linking force, midfielders coming way back, and our backs being dangerous in attack.
How about Joseph Martinez tracking back to make a stop on defense in our own 18?
How about Ezequiel Barco doing the same exact thing right after he scores the goal?
Yes, it's funny. I was definitely very critical of Ezequiel Barco last year. And I just think that he, for nothing else than inconsistency, you saw a lot of shine and a lot of promise out of him last year. You just didn't see it on a consistent basis. And all that scandal stuff got into his head. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And it's very trendy right now to say, you know, where are the Barco haters? Where the Barco haters at and all that stuff. But this game showed something that this past few games, we've seen that exact thing from Barco that we didn't see at all in his first season, where he was very reluctant to get back on defense, especially if he lost the ball. He would rather kick the air than go and get back. But you're right. He's tireless. He's absolutely our fastest player right now. He's not just the quickest, but he's the fastest. So he
has course corrected all of the criticisms that I think people that I don't necessarily think that it was Barco haters. I think it was people that were criticizing Barco for not doing the things that we knew that he was perfectly capable of doing, that he is succeeding wildly at doing this season.
What did we shout for all last year?
Fucking take a shot. Look at this guy
what happened last night.
Oh my God. So much so that last night he has an opening where Gressel and Martinez overlap. And I'm like, just lay it off to them because they're wide open inside the box.
Nope.
And he's like, nah, fuck this. I got one. I need another. Yeah, I think Barco was suffocated in a lot of ways because of Miggy and the way that Miggy liked to play. And we talked very early on in this season about how Miggy's role was going to be distributed between Pity Martinez and Ezequiel Barco. And while I think the pity role is still being developed and he's finding his footing on this team, Barco is thriving in the power vacuum that we have that exists on this team in the absence of Miguel Almiron.
Yeah, it definitely is like a dictator just got taken down. A power vacuum. Yeah.
I mean, he really is. I mean, he's found the
Almiron
ability.
is Gaddafi.
Exactly.
And we have to make sure we don't have a failed state. I don't know if that's too recent a reference, if that's too
Ladies
soon.
and gentlemen, we got him.
We did. I mean, when he finally got that red card against Mexico playing for Paraguay, the mask slipped, and we all saw the true evil that is Miguel Almiron.
Well, conspiracy has it that the New World Order was just trying to take him out, so they were trying to get him to Newcastle.
Well, if you believe all the Orlando fans, he looked like a lizard anyway. So the Illuminati confirmed.
So, did you ever see the series V?
Oh yeah, the original, right? You're talking about the one from the 80s?
The original, absolutely,
Yes.
where they're all lizard people. And that was Miguel Almiron, obviously.
Yeah, that was like Chris Farley. Do you remember when you made that song? We didn't start the fire. Yeah, that was really cool.
Oh my God.
So how do you want to do this? Do you want to talk? We usually, in a highly structured format, talk some lineup, then we talk about the game. Like, how do you want to do it?
I like it. Dan keeping us on track. I like it. First of all, have you heard about roughneck scarves?
Well, apparently, Home Before Dark have some scarves coming, but
They might be here. I don't know because
I don't see them, which means
I got a
that
Sky Bell alert. I was at work at 9 o'clock this morning, and I get a Sky Bell alert, and I'm on my phone, and I'm looking, and there's this guy trying to deliver a package, and it needs a signature, and he turns away, and I just sunk into my chair.
Tim sending me pictures of this delivery guy with a box, and I just took a scarf off my wall and folded it up and said, well, if a box is this big, started doing the mental math of like, can 50 scarves fit in this size box?
But what if it's vacuum sealed?
It's interesting. It's interesting that you guys did all this when you could have just gone downstairs and asked him if the package was yours.
No, he was at the office.
Oh yeah.
Right, why didn't you just can't you do the microphone through the doorbell thing?
Right.
Yeah, but that doesn't count as a signature.
Why not?
Because I can't reach my hand through the wall, and
you don't have that technology.
I don't got that thing got that thing Michael Keaton's got from Spider-Man.
How does that not count for you to be like, no, leave it on my porch? Listen to me. Just leave it on my porch.
You didn't say that you were at work and it was at your house.
Yeah,
I did.
We did.
I definitely did. Dan.
I doubt it.
Anyway, scarves may or may not be here. Check out roughneckscarves.com. And lineup, biggest change to the lineup, I think, is the removal of Breck Shea at left back and replacing him with Michael Parkhurst.
Michael Parkhurst at left back for the first time, they said, in 7 years.
Since 2012.
He had not played left back.
Yes.
Obviously, it was never going to work. Obviously.
No, absolutely not.
Well,
And
I
if
mean,
it did work, let's be careful because it is a depleted SKC team.
Well, Kevin, that is a very good point. That is
I mean,
a very
he
good
didn't
point.
even have to play really because they only had 10 men on the field.
Absolutely. The other thing, what I liked about this and what I didn't like about this, which is just playing into the narrative, there was a crappy SKC team. They were, if you look at their average player positions, they were like they were scarecrows stuck in mud. They did not seem to move. And even if you check the heat maps, the center backs were just stuck there in one position and they left so much space open. I mean, we saw Barco run down the line like 2-3 times unopposed.
It was like gravity with Sandra Bullock. There's so much space.
It was, there was tons of space, which was great. But I'd also kind of builds a little bit of a blueprint for teams to, bunker harder.
Yeah, I agree, Dan. That was a really good analysis, aside from that really bad joke by Tim. One of the interesting things about the Michael Parkhurst at left back was the way that decision was made by Frank de Boer. It was not something that they just looked at the players that they had and said, well, Breck Shea isn't really doing great, and we got Michael Parkhurst, so we might as well throw him over there. It was something that was evaluated through film and the tendencies that SKC had to track from left to right on the field, and knowing that Michael Parkhurst was best suited to handle that. And I think he did really great. And somebody Brian mentions it was interesting to see him push in a little bit centrally from time to time. And I think that was what his role was always intended to be, was to track those players as they move centrally from left to right. But I think what was strangest for me was seeing him so far up the field, which we never see.
And actually, well, you say that, but 2 games ago
that's true.
Against Dallas, he was up in, he was playing right.
Everybody was.
It's true. It's true. Trying to break that down, he was playing right back, and he was up, and he did look lost at times, but there were times where he was actually penetrating the defense.
Dude, that fucking stutter step that he had up on the line.
But to me, I'm not that surprised by it, just because of what I saw against Dallas. He didn't have the finished product at that point in Dallas whenever we played Dallas, but he served up that one that Petey volleyed wide, right?
Exactly. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
It was only natural, I think, in hindsight, obviously. But whenever he got brought in against Colorado, he got brought in for Breck Shea, right? He got put into the game for Breck Shea, and then he played on that left side. And I don't know if that was necessarily just I don't know if that was out of necessity or if that was a tryout, or like not tryout, but just to see for Frank de Boer to see if it's viable to put him on that side.
We did get an update on George Bello. I don't know if you guys saw 2 to 3 months with an abductor.
I feel for the kid, but at the same time, he's 17.
It's not a good position for Atlanta United to be in.
It's not, but at the same time, no need to rush that kid.
No,
back.
absolutely not. It's just more what does Atlanta United do going long term? Because while we can all agree that the decision to put Michael Parkhurst in hindsight was a great one, it worked out great. I think we all agree that Breck Shea is not. I mean, we all sat here last week and said he was the most disposable. If we had to put a disposable player on the field, it would be Breck Shea. It's not to say that he's the worst player to ever play the game, but left back is our most vulnerable position right now. And to have one of our depth pieces out for a few months and no timeline on Mikey Ambrose right now?
No, I don't think there's timeline on Mikey Ambrose. I do want to point out real quick, Connor Thompson in the trap. Asking if you're drinking Yoo-Hoo and whiskey. This is actually, he said, only the most Southern in royalty drinks.
I actually put some peanuts in there too and some Coke. It's Yoo-Hoo bourbon, peanuts, and Coke.
It's actually cold brew. It's got to get amped. It's like you're drinking Bud E. You remember that stuff?
Oh,
it was Bud Energy. It was beer with caffeine in it.
Gross.
What I like about putting Parkhurst at left back is he's been able to anchor that side of the field. So when Escobar pushes up, Miles, LGP, and Parkhurst can form that sort of 3 center back pairing, and then Nagby gets pushed further left, with Remedi sort of like dropping in the middle and maybe going back into a CB role. But it just seems like a really intelligent move. It's like Frank de Boer, with all of his experience in soccer, knows like what he's doing and has a plan.
No, did you see that? 6 games at Crystal Palace. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Not at all.
He had Wilfred Zaha. I don't know how he didn't go undefeated during that time frame. It's actually shameful. To Landon Schultz in the trap, who says Mickey, I think he means Mikey Ambrose, is back in training again.
No, he's talking about Orlando City. He's ahead of us right now. We're not talking about them yet.
Elliot Beaven, longtime trap star, saying Atlanta United should use Hernandez more as a left back.
Does he have an Atlanta United contract, or does he have a contract with
the Twos?
Just the Twos?
I don't know. But John Gallagher was on the bench last night. And I believe he can play wing back on the left side, if I'm not mistaken.
I do like Connor Thompson's logic. This is a good Home Before Dark kind of spin on things. Wait, if two rights make a left, then we can play two right backs and a center back. I like it.
This is too much. And then Dirty Bird Person saying, I think it's time to bring in another body at that spot. Bello is not going to be healthy and acclimated before it's time to move on for this season. It's true. It's just left back is historically notoriously hard in terms of a hard position to fill with talent that can, I guess, go both ways, because it's not, if you look at the bigger leagues, it's definitely not hard to find a left back who can get up the field, but one that can play defense at the same time is definitely harder. And then you run into the situation where you have somebody like Chris McCann that you're playing at left back who is not necessarily an attacking threat. It's a tough, just fullbacks are probably the toughest position and probably the most thankless position, I guess, relatively speaking, on the field. I don't know where we find that left back. It seems like everybody's having trouble finding fullbacks in MLS right now.
Yeah, I was hoping that they would oh my gosh. I was hoping they would bring someone in. Hernandez is unavailable. I think he is loaned this year to Hotel 2, but he's unavailable. And so yeah, I think it makes sense to play Parkhurst in what we've deemed a typically out of position, but because we need to, within the confines of MLS, you need more utility types of players in order to cover more ground, so your squad can be more flexible without having to, because you've got the salary cap to deal with. I think it makes a ton of sense to do that. At least I think it makes a ton of sense for De Boer to experiment with guys out of position, and I'm fully on board with it. It may not go very well sometimes, but I appreciate him tinkering with the squad in order to do that. And when it doesn't pull off, people are just going to jump on him. And when it does, he looks like a genius.
Yeah, Tim, it's an interesting point that you mentioned about the rest of the league struggling at the same position. I feel like every week, that's one of the benefits of doing the offside trap. Every single week we talk to people.
Who's your liability? Well, we have this guy on the right.
And it's always the left back. Yeah, it's always the left back, I feel like. And it's always struggling on defense. So somebody mentioned Landon Schultz. So in the June window, what position should Atlanta look to pick up? I think universally, at least my vote would be looking for somebody at that left back, but everybody seems to be going the same route. And so if you don't pick up a defender, I don't know what other voids this team really has as far as depth pieces goes. I'm struggling to find one outside of that defensive positioning. And even that can maybe be rectified by going to the 3-back formation with the 3 that you feel really confident in, with Miles Robinson, Franco Escobar, and LGP. And then you've got Michael Parkhurst there and waiting if you need to. And then, I think there's a lot of options, but that would be my vote, would be somebody for defense. What do you think, Dan? June window coming up.
Yeah, I would totally say, go for a left back as much as you can.
Right.
I would love them to see if they could pull off that Brooks Lennon attempt that they tried last year. Otherwise, I feel like you're trying to look for another center mid. So to bring depth to that position, and maybe a center mid who can play a little bit of center back, because you don't want your center backs going down as much. It's an injury to LGP or Robinson, and then you're bringing in Pogba.
Yeah, that's true. I forget. I keep forgetting we have Pogba in waiting. We have not seen much of him so far.
No, that's what Brian was asking. Didn't Pogba play some left back? I think so, but at the same time, I can't help but think right now, I can't think of anything other than this being a publicity move at this point.
Yeah.
Because
he doesn't seem to be a viable option. He's gotten, I can probably count on one hand the amount of minutes he's had this season.
I think he's literally played tens of minutes in the 8 games he's been in the 18. Well, I guess he hasn't been in the 18 all 8 games, but more than half of them at least. And he's got very little play time. But obviously Frank is not seeing. Yeah, exactly. As Brian said, he'd be starting over Shea if he was showing something in training, but he's not.
That's a good point.
It doesn't seem like he is. I don't know. I feel like center back might be our. I feel like we have depth at that position, if for no other reason than we have Escobar, LGP, Parkhurst, and Miles Robinson.
I think we do in the center mid as well, to Dan's point, between Eric Remedi, Nagbe, Jeff Lorenowitz. Even if you have to bring Gressel over into that center mid role,
and whenever Kevin Gratz is healthy, but he's not, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really looking at that left side, because the amount of mobility that Barco has, even as the wing, and maybe this is a good segue to talk about Barco's performance, which we just lightly touched on previously, but it seems like that left side needs to be shored up in the long term, and maybe what Atlanta doesn't go for because they know everybody else is going to be going for it in the June transfer window is looking for somebody in the left midfield role rather than a left back role that can come back and play some defense, but knowing that you have a Jeff Lorenowitz or a Eric Remedi that can drop back to shore up the back line in a 3-back formation so that LGP can track over onto left or whatever that you need to help those left midfielders to track back and cover on. But that's going to give you some more depth in a left offensive role that I think is maybe lacking right now. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, don't think so. We've got Dion Pereira. I mean, we've seen more of him than we've seen of anybody else who is not on the squad at this point in time. So, and he seems, I mean, he's been on the bench pretty consistently, which means he's doing something at the twos enough for the board to bring him up and say, okay, yeah, you can come in as a sub and reward you for that. So I think we'll probably see him potentially when Barco goes to the U20 World Cup and eventually loses to England. But then someone in the trap was also saying that we could potentially lose Pitti and Barco to a Southern American competition. That
I don't think that's going to happen.
No, well, like being both called up for Argentina senior.
Oh, I thought you were saying them getting sold in the summer. I was like, I very much doubt that. Sorry.
No. So we have Dion Pierre, but you know, if you bring in a CDM, CM center mid role, it only takes an injury to, you know, someone like Martinez, then you want to push Nagbe up, because I feel like Nagbe is going to, if you pull out Pitti and Barco, you've got a few holes to fill, but you're always, the feeling I get from this squad is you already want to have those guys in line for the offense rather than having to bring in someone for like a spot, like a spot appearance. So it's always going to be defenders who you'll pull in, like journeymen or veteran players who are out of contract, or you pull off a transfer like we did with Remedi. But I mean, Remedi was a great move. But you know, I feel like our depth is more important on offense than it is on defense.
No, I would agree with you on that. Yeah. I mean, we need more in mid. I mean, we play. So I can't remember who it was. I think it was Tony Neitzel at the beginning of the show in the trap saying that, you know, we finally started shooting and we started not just trying to pass the ball in, but that is kind of a hallmark or a trademark, is that whole everybody's a midfielder mentality.
But it's because of that, people taking it, and I feel like I'm a broken record, and I hate to toot our own horn. I hate to toot our own horn a little bit, but that's what we've been saying all along, right? Like you have to have players that are willing to take a shot at the top of the 18 to make defenders second and triple guess what your players are going to do, to open up the passing lanes, to get some one-touch passes for an easy gimme goal like what we saw against SKC. It's because Barco is taking shots at the top of the 18 that all of the defenders are having to step to and challenge him, that a quick layoff pass and a 1-2 connection with Joseph Martinez or Pitti or whoever it may be, Gressel up top, manages to find some traction that wasn't happening before. So I think those things will continue to develop. But to your point about needing the offensive depth, that's about to get challenged pretty heavily. We talked about Barco being out for the U20s coming up. I think he left today. So before we move on to that, actually, let's give Barco his due, even though we're going to be without him for arguably the toughest stretch of games that Atlanta United is going to have this season in the quickest turnaround time, something like 7 games in 20 days or something like that. Then we have a 3-week break in June. But Ezequiel Barco, let's do it. Let's do like a 1-minute spiel on Barco each, because I think he deserves it after this performance this past week. Tim, thoughts on Barco this week?
I thought he was outstanding. I think he's our workhorse. And one of the things that seems like we're lacking is that combination of quickness and speed that we had with Miguel Almiron. And it seems like we have some shades of that now. I mean, it's maybe just that much more amplified whenever Pity Martinez gets on the ball, how much he slows it down and how often he holds up possession or holds up play. To the benefit or the detriment of the team, whatever. It's pretty consistent. He does slow the game down a little bit more to his speed. Barco's the opposite. Barco is flying in, trying to get on the end of things. I mean, you saw a couple times whenever they didn't connect in the final third or with the final pass going into the 18. But at the same time, like the way he was latching onto balls, it made me really feel like it was the first time I really hadn't missed Miguel Almiron this season, I think.
Yeah. Dan, what are your thoughts?
The biggest factor that I saw in this game was him tracking all the way back to block out. I think it was Johnny Russell at one point, but he ran all the way back to the penalty box and shut down a chance that was happening. And I was like, okay, that's exactly what we loved Miggy doing. And Barco was doing that. And it was like the 80th minute, and it was like he was still going at 100 miles an hour. I was really impressed with his stamina. Also, I think one thing that's helped him has been the Joseph Martinez of last season. He was getting piled up in the final third. There was like points where there's like 4 or 5 guys around him. And as soon as he was able to either lay the ball off or have it randomly bounce off to Barco was in a space, and he was able to do that. He had a ton of space where he was able to score that crazy curling effort that goes to
we're losing
far
you, Dan.
right post. I mean, him having space. No, you are not losing me. I think now he is having space, he's able to do more. And I feel like when I remember for last year, there was so much more blocking and so much more bunkering, and he was pushed way too far up. They didn't have the breathing room behind him in order to take a step back and sort of concentrate a little bit in order to put in like a decent shot or a decent effort, rather than he was panicking and just pushing it off to another teammate.
Yeah, definitely the most complete performance by Barco that we've seen out of his. It's hard to believe that he's been here for 2 years now,
Yeah.
but most complete performance. I think there's a lot of factors that weigh into that. I think that he's gotten better week in, week out. Dan, to your point, success breeds success, and I think a lot of last night lent itself to that he found success early on and some of the link up play that leads to Joseph Martinez's goal. Saw him tracking back and doing just about all of the things that we expected him to do if we were to break off the Miguel Almiron role and distribute it to him and Pity. I think that all of the elements that we expected him to take on, he did that and more last night. And I'm struggling to come to terms with the fact that we're going to lose him for a couple of weeks for the U20, but it's good for him. It's good for the image of the club that he's peaking and getting a form right now that he's going to go play there and hopefully build on that success. And we obviously hope that he comes back healthy. And at the same time, I'm a little bummed because he is finding that success right now when we really need that player and we need that consistency and that depth for this run of games. A couple of the comments in the trap. is Justin Johnson. Barco is the closest to a Miggy replacement on the counter rather than Pity. Can you scroll up a little bit, Tim? There's a couple other comments up there, right there. We look better in the final third. This last match, Barco has been big in that regard in the last few games. One of the interesting comments here is that both by Elliot Bevan and Dirty Bird Person about Carlton, where Carlton fits into that lineup, which maybe leads me to the next point, which is Barco's gone. I think it's a obvious substitution, and that the person that gets the starting role for this lineup as it stands currently is Tito Villalba. That said, what do we expect to see out of Tito in the next few games? What is his trajectory going forward, knowing that Barco's going to be gone for a couple of weeks? Is that position called into question if Tito starts to build some success there? And then subsequently, what do we expect to see out of Andrew Carlton? Because I think that he's next in line over there at that position with Tito, that the next likely substitution there is going to be Andrew Carlton, even though I will note he's not had any play time so far that I'm aware of under Frank DeBoer since he started as manager.
Right.
So
I don't know, man. He wasn't even the 18 last night. John Gallagher made the 18 over him.
Exactly.
That makes me think that he is probably more in line to get minutes outside of Tito coming in there. First, I think Tito plays in it as an inverted winger, and I think you put Petey back in the middle and you put him behind Joseph Martinez. But at the same time, I think John Gallagher might be. Anytime I've seen him play with the twos, he's been impressive. So I don't know. I think he's probably earning his dues. I don't know where Andrew Carlton fits in right now.
I tell you where Andrew Carlton fits in. He fits in the alleyway behind $3 Cafe, drunk out of his mind. I don't think Carlton is in this lineup. I think he's an heir apparent to a left back.
Good Lord.
I think, but with Barco's absence, I think Piera slots in there. And I'm assuming that when you are saying Tito is going to play, he is going to be on the left mid, so he's playing inverted.
I think that's where we've seen him line up in this formation so far with Frank as that inverted winger sort of role with Gressel on the right.
Yeah. So I just did a trap.
Dan, you're breaking. Your connection is really, really breaking up.
Yeah, we can't even piece together words at this point.
Oh, man. Well, we should have used Audacity.
It doesn't help the people that are watching live or us to understand you. So
go on. Well, aside from the drunken alley
okay.
$3 cafe,
I think Dion Piera is going to take Barco's spot. I don't think Andrew Carlton is going to put into this squad.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see over the next few weeks what happens in that position. Toronto comes to town Wednesday night. What are we expecting out of this game? Not necessarily results per se. I think a lot of the conversation so far this season has been catered around because Atlanta got off to a rough start and what constitutes a successful outing, a successful result outside of the final score. What do we expect to see against a Toronto team that's been really successful so far this season? What do you guys hope to see aside from a positive result, obviously?
And battery exhausted. I got it. Go ahead, Dan.
So Toronto, they played. So obviously they beat Orlando. I am more worried about Toronto than anyone that we've played previously. Jonathan Osorio is playing lights out. So is Alejandro Ponzuelo. even Michael Bradley's doing really well. Nick DeLeon's doing well, and
that's the real question. Do we expect to see Booze this or hear? Do we see Booze? Do we hear Booze this week? Is it over finally? What's the statute
hope
of
it's
limitation
over.
on booing?
I don't know. The relationship that Osorio and Moro have built on the left-hand side seems to have consolidated pretty well. I think they've played every single MLS game so far together. I'm hoping that Escobar is going to be up for it. I'm thinking that you want to play Gressel on that right-hand side to kind of abate that a little bit, which means Tito is going to be inverted unless Dion Pereira is playing in front of him. It's going to be a difficult game. I'm not very hopeful about it, although I'm going to be actually attending it, which will be my first game I've been to this season.
Weird. You can make it to games, but you can't make it into the studio.
Oh, that's cool.
Well,
that's cool. Got him.
You know, hey, we've got to have priorities, right?
He's too busy drunk in that alley with Andrew Carlson. I'm pretty sure that's where he's been the past few weeks.
Cops. Hey, APD, I know who's been feeding Carlton booze, and his name's Dan James. One thing I want to see, and I think we will see, is there's a man named Eric Remedi who has a penchant for locking down and making center attacking midfielders disappear. We saw it in the playoffs. He erased Kaku more so than MLS did with that suspension. He erased Maxi Morales from the game. He most likely is going to be able to at least neutralize Alex Pozuelo. And I think that's where we will find success. I think that he is going to be able to shut down those passing lanes, and I think we're going to be fine there. Plus, we have Miles Robinson in the back who's going to be able to just head away every single ball that comes near him.
Or if he doesn't do it intentionally, he'll find a way to put his head in the path of the ball like he did this past weekend.
Well, no,
that knocked him on his fucking ass.
I'm surprised he didn't start headbanging. Because he looked up like, oh yeah. I wanted him to just, oh yeah.
Oh.
Any word on him? Because
I don't know.
I mean,
knowing
obviously
how lax the concussion protocol is in MLS, I'm sure he's fine.
It was right. It was during stoppage time, whenever stoppage time first started in the first half. So obviously he went through some sort of concussion protocol in the locker room or during halftime, and he passed it. But at the same time, I would be
remiss.
I would not be surprised if he ended up having a concussion, because that was a hell of a hit that he took.
I'd be remiss if I didn't remind you guys that the phone lines are open, 678-827-3297. You can get your calls in. We've got a few of those as we start to queue them up here. My expectations this week, now that I know that Dan is going to be in attendance, it was mentioned earlier on about a potential meet and greet on Sunday. With it being Mother's Day, I don't know what my personal plans are, but what I expect to see Wednesday, with it being an after-work special, potentially a meet and greet in the atrium prior to kickoff Wednesday evening. So for those of you that are going, we'll tweet out the details if we can get together in the atrium, maybe have some drunken waffle fries off the floor, as some of us have been known to do during cup play, apparently.
Awesome. If we do that, then you can meet my dad.
What do you mean? I've met him before. He made me the red oven Indian chicken. What's that? Chicken tandoori. Remember
chicken?
He made me chicken tandoori? Made all of us chicken tandoori for New Year's whenever Clemson beat LSU. Oh, I remember that real good.
But I wasn't talking about you, Kevin. I was talking about our awesome listeners.
Okay, because I met your dad too on the way to the stadium from the varsity down to Bobby Dodd.
It's just
like
weird.
2 years ago.
It's just weird to hear you directly address the listeners whenever you just seem so out of touch. You're just tweeting out. You can't be bothered to get personal with the listeners now whenever you have such impersonal tweets as, look at this pretty stadium. Yeah, I'm back on Twitter now, fucker. I saw what you've been doing in my absence, and I do not approve of that.
And you've never had so many likes. Oh.
Lies, sir. Lies.
I just keep. I'm waiting for Dan to to start breaking up, and I don't feel so good, Mr. Herb. I don't feel so good, Mr. Herb. Just like that.
All right, what we got for voicemails, Tim? 678-827-3297.
Let me get this.
Phone lines are always open, by the way. We tweet it out, but anytime you want to call, feel free. It's through Google, so we've got set up. Can we set up a personalized? I think one of the things that maybe throws people off is that it has the automated voicemail. Can we do a personalized leave a message after the beep? Go check out roughneckscarves.com sort of deal?
I don't know.
I'm just segueing until the audio finally gets figured out.
Do you want me to do fantasy while you do?
Yeah, that sounds really great.
It,
I had a really fun fantasy last night.
All right.
Sorry, I'm just kidding. No, that's not. Sorry, different things. Go ahead.
Good Lord, Kevin. All right.
You were in it. Just kidding.
Kevin had a fantasy that he was in Winterfell drinking Starbucks because that was a thing I saw on the internet today.
Giants milk.
All right, so in fifth position, Real Inter United FC by Felch, one of the highest scoring week's leaders with 108 points. He had Joseph Martinez on the bench, but was happy to throw in Daniels from Toronto, who didn't play. So Joseph just slotted right in there and got him a massive 14 points. He was playing with Pozuelo. He had Jacket in there and Tony Trusty because Philadelphia did pretty good this weekend. He also had Zlatan, who is the spitting image of my brother. That's a very random thing, but he also scored him 7 points, and he had Miller from LAFC.
Race faces Stetson, Ezekiel Barco. Oh boy!
I think we got something. Tim got something.
We got it working, Dan.
Sorry, D-Pain. We cut you off.
Do you want me to hold up on this,
there.
or do you want me to keep going?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
D-Pain.
You got that auto-tune going on tonight. Go ahead, Tim.
All right. In fourth, we have FC Apogee by Nathan Lyons. He was also switcherooing, but he did a little better than Joseph Martinez with Pritz Club Klo. Pritz Club Klo, 5.7 midfielder, 5.7 million forward with 16 points. Bit of a sleeper there.
The way you did, and I just thought it was your connection breaking up, but I think you meant to say it like that. So that was really good.
Well, I mean, you look at his name; it is all, there is one vowel in there, huh?
Prisbilko?
Yep, that sounds good, Tim. Good job. He also had Nani in there, so Nani cost him a couple of points. So
you need to pick up Nani so that you can be in the studio with us on Monday nights.
Speaking of Nani, Mother's Day, Sunday, Orlando, Daddy's back. Am I right? Am I right? Go ahead.
You are right. Funnily, that is where I will be on Sunday. Okay, don't var me, bro. Position 3, probably. He did some switcher. Everyone is switchering. It's so boring. He had Majunadin from Philadelphia scored a massive 30 points with the captain armband. He also had Nani. Okay, I guess Nani's going to have a double game week. So hopefully that can screw you over, Matt, probably, because he's going to get destroyed by Man United. Position 2, Thormacher SC. Got some surprises in number 2.
Oh, Mike Germon.
Good job.
Furman German.
Mike Germon. That's my boy.
He had not a great midfield. He had Nani, K, Ponzuelo, Asidu, and Monterio. So Asidu got subbed for Salinas, which scored him an extra 6 points. And the number 1 soccer-specific fantasy team by Andy
Watkins.
Watkins.
The guy of the sugars.
He is a man of the
scored a
people.
whopping
He is a
106
man of
points. He had Zlatan on the bench.
All right, voicemails.
Man of the people, a man of the healthcare system. He did awesome. I mean, I've gone through
Sorry,
this and
Dan,
it's
I
still
keep cutting
waiting
you
on
off 'cause it's
voicemails. This is terrible.
All right,
We should have done
voicemails
Audacity.
678-827-3297. Get them in. Tim's going to start playing them now, or it's fart sounds. I don't even know anymore. Go ahead.
Sorry about that, guys. I could not resist.
All that talk about Orlando.
Man, like this really lets me know I have fat
Good morning,
fingers.
fellas. It's Kevin. Yeah, let's quickly run down this. How about that wheeling, dealing, girlfriend stealing, shaking, baking, shot making, brace face assassin, Ezekiel Barco? Oh boy, I can't wait to watch the that young kids World Cup that's coming up. Number 2, speaking of that, y'all ready for a big heaping boatload of inverted Tito? Number 3, also, if it's not Tito, who do you guys think gets the most appearances over the next 8 games? Do you think it's Carlton? Do you think it's Gallagher? Do you think it's Neon Dion Pereira? And if it is Carlton, what do you guys think the over-under is on the number of appearances he has before the end of that U16 or U18 World Cup? All right, I'll hang up and listen. Oh yeah, long-time caller. Long-time listener. 5th-time caller. To hell with Orlando.
I feel like every week we end up getting. I'm really proud of ourselves because
Yes.
I don't look at those before we record, so we always end up hitting all of the topics, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So we all lightly touched on it. If you had a vote, let's just go around the room. I think you two spoke on it, but I didn't. Who do we see as the likely replacement between Gallagher, Pereira, and Andrew Carlton over the next few weeks in Barco's absence?
If we're talking about outside of Tito, I think probably it's more likely to be Dion Pereira, though I would not be surprised if it's John Gallagher. But I think that Andrew Carlton at this point is 3rd on that list if it's between those 3 players.
I will second that sentiment.
Yeah, I think Dion Pereira. And then after, so that's 2, right? So you'd have Tito, and then you'd have DP, and then the 3rd guy, I guess, would be Gallagher.
Interesting. Brian says none of the above. I wonder what his suggestion is. Let us know in the trap. You got the next voicemail ready?
Yeah, next voicemail.
What's up, guys? Chris. I'm not going to do the drunken guy who walks around with a dog and doesn't want to wake up his baby. But I got to say, I was really impressed with the game. Felt like we did a really, really, really good job in a lot of areas. Felt like we finally saw some life in Atlanta United. But the one thing I want to say is, man, Miles Robinson got knocked the fuck out. Jesus Christ, that was a fucking face palm. Jeez. But on the other question I have is, with Barco going, since Barco seems to be our guy that's making plays, what are we going to do? Who's going to fill his shoes? All right, guys. Hope you do well. Look forward to seeing you in the trap.
Okay, so I
Dan,
think this is interesting because I don't think this is the same question that Kevin Gorham's asking, because I think what he's asking, while we might put Tito in for Barco, he is not the replacement in playmaking for Barco. Who does the playmaking in place of Barco at this point?
That's a really interesting question.
Who does that? Because Tito's not a playmaker, right? Tito is a guy who makes runs, finds lanes, who gets on the end of balls. He's not necessarily the guy. It happens on occasion.
I think the difference maker right now, based on where the players are and what we've seen out of the first 8 games, if I am going to decide who's going to be the player to distribute and be the playmaker based on foot skill and the awareness of where all the other players are falling offensively, it's going to be Darlington Nagbe. I think it could be Pity Martinez with a little bit more development, but where he is in this lineup currently and where things stand, I don't think that's the case. I think it will be Darlington Nagbe that ends up being the difference maker offensively on how balls are being distributed out of the midfield.
So, yeah, Nagbe played a blinder last week. He really did. I mean, there was like 1 or 2 errors, one horrible error that could have just led a goal, but thankfully it didn't. That's a good shout, Kevin. I think Pitti is so close to opening his scoring account, and I think when that happens, it's going to be like a switch will be flipped. Hopefully,
I think Pitti could be our if. Well, I'm not going to say if. When Atlanta United makes it to the playoff, somewhere between 4th and 7th place, and I win an away days kit courtesy of Christian Mills. I think that by that point in the season, Pitti Martinez will be.
How come I didn't get on that bet?
I'm not letting you. What do you mean? It was in Slack. It's on you, homie.
Oh, that's my fault.
Yep. Go ahead. What do you think? What are you thinking? Who's the?
Can I finish?
That role?
Can I finish?
Oh God.
Can I finish, Kevin? Can I finish?
The first. You're normally done way quicker than this. Go ahead.
Well, that was just one night, man. I'd had a lot of beer, and I wasn't paying attention.
Just watching Jordan Mormont, Jordan Peterson himself.
Jordan Peterson?
Watching
Jordan Peterson's definitely not the
right
person. That would be pretty amazing to see, though.
I think Gressel could be the guy.
Ooh.
Because he's done a lot. I think Nagby's a good shout, but I don't want to be the same as you, Kevin. So when Gressel out playmakers Nagby, I can tell you to eat it.
What metric do we use then to equivocate this?
I guess we're going to need to do either assists or chance creation.
Yeah, right.
So we're going to have to come up with some really complicated way to.
All right, so hold on. Let's hear Tim's response first. And then we can figure that out.
Breck Shea. Go ahead, guys.
You are such a fucking liar.
No, I think that he's going to step in. He's probably going to play central attacking midfielder.
Just put him up into 7.
He's my answer is actually going to be Julian Gressel, just because I think he's our best playmaker outside of Barco right now, and I think that he just has a tendency to create chances, and I think that with that vacuum being open, with Barco being out, I think that Gressel is going to be able to pick a lot of that back up. I think he's had some of that burden taken off of him this year. Granted, we haven't been the most. The first few games of the season, we weren't the most prolific in chance creation, obviously. So I think with that open back up for him, I think he's going to be putting a lot more balls in and creating a lot more chances.
So you mentioned XG and assists. I would almost wager that it has to do with passing accuracy being the definer of success and chance creation in the run of play in this Frank de Boer system. As much as possession has been a integral part to this system and what Frank's done, I think that it's going to be the passing accuracy based in that possession that will lead to the success in the subsequent chance creation or assists.
Yeah, but I mean, Miles Robinson's good at passing too, but that doesn't mean he's going to be a playmaker.
Right, but we're talking about players that are naturally going to be making passing attempts in the attacking third. So if we're talking about two players that are going to be passing in the attacking third, I think that passing accuracy is going to be a critical thing for Darlington Nagbe more so than assists or XG are, because of the way that he's distributing the ball up to the people that are actually going to be making the layoffs, the 1-2 touches or whatever it may be up top, whether it's Tino Villalba or Joseph Martinez tracking back or even Gressel, you know.
Oh, as a predictive stat.
Right.
Okay.
All right. We got some more voicemails? No, yeah. Joe. It's got to be Joe Johnstone in there, right?
No, Joe Johnstone.
Oh, I'm so disappointed. We got one more. Apparently, there's still time. 678-827-3297. Get those calls in. Joe, it's not too late.
This is Frank Debo. To all my haters out there, can I get that toot toot whistle again? And screw you, Crystal Palace.
He had a little bit of a like a Asian twang on that. Like that was it was a big deviation from the last time we heard Frank. He might just be riding high off of a big win.
Yeah, I mean it's
See that, but
yeah, there you go, Frank.
Nonetheless, be remiss.
Connor
without
Thompson's asking for the phone number.
that. You are such a silly shit.
678-827-3297
roughneckscarves.com.
Oh boy. So I want
South African. That might have been it.
South African.
Yeah, exactly.
My wife.
My wife.
My wife is in the room. One thing I wanted to say from last night and some of the reaction that we were seeing, that people just can't be happy.
Yeah.
And right now I can't help but feel like any success we find or any joy, I feel like I'm half cocked with a smile.
Get whole cocky, Tim. After dark.
I feel like I have a half cocked smile. No matter what.
I walk into every situation with a whole cock smile, no matter how I'm feeling, Tim. Maybe that's the difference maker, really, in our outlook on life, is whether or not you're walking around smile half cock or whole cock.
What is it? 678-827-3297.
Yeah, that's it.
Anyway.
Hit enter.
Oh, I didn't hit enter. I hit the space. No, I feel like I am riding high at this point still off of last season's championship.
Don't get cocky, kid.
To the point where any success and extra happiness I find.
Dan, I see you, shitbird.
Too bad I gave him the phone number to the Gwinnett County Police. I just feel like anything at this point is found money. I don't know if you feel like that right now, where you feel like any success we're finding right now on top of the championship of last year is like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Because,
exactly.
I mean, we just won a championship. And yeah, always get whole cocked for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I should have known better. Like,
don't bring a half cock around me, Tim. You know I'm gonna want the whole thing.
Totally screwed up what I was gonna say. Okay. Yeah, I don't think we have any more voicemails coming in tonight.
All right, so phone lines will stay open. We've got 2 games this week. We won't have 2 shows, but I feel like we've got to touch on Orlando. I know we're kind of hitting the hour mark already here. We got to touch on the Orlando show just because we won't have another show before the Orlando game. I know Toronto is the big one because it's just 2 days away, or tomorrow if you're listening to this on iTunes or wherever you found your podcasts. Orlando match.
Hold on.
Sunday. Oh. We've got another?
Yeah, we have another voicemail that just came in.
Are you just bringing up the fart?
Yo, watching you guys live, what are the chances of everyone going to play a 7-2-1 formation? This is Connor signing off.
7-2-1 formation.
7 in the back?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, damn. Just bunker.
Toronto. Yeah. You're talking about Toronto playing a 7-2-1 or Orlando playing that?
I think that we would be more likely to see that out of Orlando more so than Toronto, just because Toronto is riding really high with a lot of success. I don't expect to see that out of Toronto team. What do you guys think? How much do you think the bunkering may play a factor in these next 2 games? Honestly, if I had to pick a team, I think it would be Orlando, but I don't think that's going to be the case in either game unless one of them happens to get up really early on against Atlanta.
No, I don't think Toronto is going to bunker at all.
No, I don't.
I think if anything, you could definitely see the possession statage, swing into their favor. I think they are probably right now, all things considered and injuries, outside of LAFC, they're probably the most complete team to challenge Atlanta United right now, to give us a real run for our money playing us 1v1.
Tim?
Because with Ponzuelo and Morrow and all the things that I said earlier in the podcast. Because you You probably couldn't hear me anyway. I'm done, Tim.
See, this is why you got to be in the studio. I
Tim,
don't
I'm
know.
done.
I don't know if you're going or coming. You're still half cocked. You coming or going? You got to let me know something. Sometimes you keep going.
I'm always full cocked. I'm always full cocked.
Sometimes you finish
I'm
so
going right
quick.
now.
I didn't even know you got started. Other times you just want to keep going and going and going. You already got 3, Dan. How many more you need?
It wasn't my fault. I had that prescription, and I
Is
just
that what you
took
said?
a whole
Is that what you said?
bunch
It's not my
more.
fault.
Then I realized, and then I was out of the prescription the next day. I mean, there's only so much.
I think I know.
There's only so much
taking a prescription for
body park can take, Kevin.
Dan, you're not supposed to take the birth control. You know that, right? I know what's
That's
going
not
on.
what you told me that they were. It must have acted like a placebo.
You were at least not supposed to smoke like a chimney when you're on it. That really lowers the effectiveness of it.
Orlando, what are you guys thinking?
I don't know what you're talking about, Tim.
3-0. I think we just beat the brakes off of them. I think that they were exposed against a team in Toronto on Saturday, and the way that Toronto just took it to them, they've had some good results this year, but I'm not scared of them, and I think that we are their boogeyman too. So I think that they're going to come.
I'll put a caveat on that, Tim, in that 2 of the leaders in the league for shots, not shots on goal, but shots, I think it is, are Nani and Dom Dwyer. So from that aspect, I am a little hesitant just because of our defensive run of form in the first 8 games. Does that change against Toronto now that we've seen?
Did you just say you're hesitant from our defensive form?
Yes.
We've given up 8 goals.
I know that. I know what you're saying, but we talked about this last week. It's not against the top goal scorers in the league.
But SKC still puts in a decent amount of goals.
Not lately.
Okay, yeah, you're right. They didn't put in 4 against New England the game right before playing us.
Okay, well, New England didn't want it bad enough, and I'm pretty sure they had a red card in that game.
They had 2, but still.
Exactly.
Christian Nemeth can still score, and then Gutierrez can score. Like it's.
I know what you're trying to get at, but I'm just saying, I'm not so quick to write off us beating Orlando 3-0.
We've given up 2 goals in the last 4 games. And 2 of those goals were in the same game. So you're talking about 3 out of the last 4 have been clean sheets for us.
Show me any of these stats that are validated by the fact that they're against the top players that have shots or shots on goals, or teams with the most goals in the league. And I'll lend some credence to it. But right now, I'm saying I don't think that I'm so quick to jump on we're going to just wax him 3-0. Tito the Lion Tamer comes out and balls out of control, knowing that we're going to have to make some adjustments in this lineup and things going into that game. Dan, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I definitely think that Orlando are in a better place than 4-0. However, check this out for a stat. They've won 3 games. How many goals did they win by in those 3 games?
1 apiece.
Exactly, Tim Hub. 1 apiece. They beat Red Bulls 1-0. They beat Colorado 4-3 and beat Vancouver 1-0.
Yeah, and we couldn't put more than 1 in on Colorado, so that means they beat us 4-1. Based on my math.
DeBoer out.
Yep.
Oh, God. Okay, so anyway, but both of those, I mean, Vancouver and Colorado are... Kevin, to your point,
Ooh. All right.
Score
be
prediction,
more of
yeah?
like a threading. 2-0. 2-0. 2-0.
2-0, he says. He had to mime it. Everybody in the trap's going on. What did you say? 3-0. I will say 2-1 Atlanta against Orlando. I think we still hold them off. Just based on the recent run of form, I know that it is a one-off game, but I'm not so convinced that we just run away with it. We got another voicemail I saw came in at the buzzer.
Oh, we did. Ooh, we did.
Ooh.
Ooh, we did.
Hey guys, this is Landon, watching you guys live. I'm officially requesting that you guys change your mascot to a dumpster truck on fire because I believe that sums up what this is and why we enjoy it. I'll hang up and listen, and if this doesn't happen, no scarves.
Is that a question about Atlanta United? Is that another opponent criticizing Atlanta United or this podcast?
No. He said,
I know what he meant.
he's talking about us.
Yeah, exactly. Look, man, we have always been the Everyman's podcast. We're the only person. We're not paraphrasing your tweets or censoring the trap. This is a podcast for the people, by the people. We owe
Morgan
everything.
and Morgan.
Exactly.
For the people.
By the people. 678-827-3297.
Roughneckscarves.com.
Shink. Convict.
Yeah, you guys are terrible.
Too many things going on.
All right. Yeah. We're terrible. Okay. Thank you guys. I think in closing, we're going to throw it back to the old outro music, which we haven't had in a while, which I really like. Thank you guys so much for your support each and every week in the trap. However you found us, we really do appreciate you. As we mentioned, reviews and ratings mean a great deal into how this show gets distributed to other fan bases. However you found us, if you were searching for Orlando City and said, wow, what is this top 3 podcast that is Atlanta United centric? Wow, I guess I should tune into that. Or if you found us as a Toronto FC podcast as a result of our offside trap with the vocal minority, which we just put up as well. However you found us, thank you for doing so. Leave us a rating or a review to hear it read aloud on the show, whatever it may be or what it may say. We need a new theme. We haven't had a theme for reviews in a while. We did the emojis last year. It was a lot of fun reading off emojis all season. So, looking for some fun and interesting new reviews. We're up to 174.
Yeah.
I think we set the line at 200 for this year. So we've got another 28 games to get through, and we have more games than we need ratings. So if we get one new rating or vote every week, we'll hit that well before the end of the season. So in true NPR fashion, we need your support. We need 5 more reviews before the end of the hour in order to hit our benchmark. And I know that Tim doesn't listen to NPR because he doesn't believe in the liberal media agenda. So he's not wrong. He's not wrong. So thank you guys for tuning in. Please go check out GetHomeBeforeDark.com shop.
That's going to give you viruses.
So you can buy things so that maybe we can get Dan's internet upgraded because
we're going to crowdfund. We're going to crowdfund AT&T fiber.
Right now we're
Dan.
podcasting with tin cans and aluminum wire. So be sure to send him your best. I'm not fully sure what's going on over there, but Dan, I'm glad you made it. I'm glad you continue to make it, however you make it, even if it's through auto-tune.
Thank you, Kevin.
Whoa. That got real triggery real quick. So thank you for that. That old Frank DeBoer is back again. I think I might know who did the Frank DeBoer call in now. I think it was Dan. All right. Thank you guys so much. Be sure to leave a rating or review on iTunes. However you found us, we really do appreciate you. We'll see you Wednesday at a meet and greet informally or on Mother's Day. If we don't see you and you are a mother, thank you for all that you do. Happy Mother's Day. We'll see you next time. As always, be home before dark.
Keep your garbage oil sands out of my country.